Hi, everyone. Got a lot of
Hello.
people joining us today, which is fantastic to see. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, welcome. Happy Memorial Day. Thanks for spending it with us.
We'll give people a few minutes to roll in. Vic, I'm excited we get to do this 2 weeks in a row.
Oh my goodness. I hope that it gets better every single time. I'm ex- I'm excited too, and I think that there's just like a lot of really cool um AI news that's coming through. I keep hearing this like new hot word is the forward deployed engineer and how like you don't actually need to be an engineer to be able to implement AI. So if you guys are here to learn how to implement AI in your business or looking to upskill, like I think this is a really good beginner course. I when we created it, I wanted it to be so easy that like you didn't have to feel overwhelmed by the technical aspects of it for it to work for you. But Will also offers like more deeply technical classes if you're interested in those as well. But I think this is such a good, like, fundamental baseline for all of you that are joining us. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, I think Victoria too. I mean, the technical is cool and fun for us nerds, but I think what the expertise you have and what I see, talking to more and more teams, especially once we get out of the solopreneur range into more mid-level and enterprise-sized companies, um, the fundamentals or the foundation is still really needed more than the technical. So I love that, even the name of this session of regain 10 hours in your week using AI is so practical to everyone. And it really doesn't need to be overly technical or complicated to actually start seeing some of this benefit. So I'm excited to see how you've presented and how you've put these ideas together for how anyone can use AI because it really is doesn't need to be overly technical to actually see the value.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited too. And it's been cool because when we first decided to teach this course, the tech was so different than it is today. So we're always evolving, we're always updating the curriculum based on like what's actually happening and the updates that are occurring within the AI world. So like just rest assured that we're trying to give you the best top of mind information out there. All right.
Yeah.
But do you think we're ready to start? How many people do we have in the room? Sorry, I have no visibility to this right now.
We got 25 people in, so I think let's kick it off, and I'm sure people will trail in. And as always, the recording will be available for everyone after the fact. And Victoria will be sharing her presentation after, so anyone joining late will be able to get the full context.
Amazing. And I'm going to be toggling between Claude and the deck. So just bear with me as we're driving through. But yeah, I wanted to help everyone regain 10 hours in your work week using AI. I trust me, it's easier said than done, especially when you're a solopreneur and you're managing so many different competing priorities. It always feels like there's not enough time in a day to do stuff. But the reality is, you're probably doing things that shouldn't be on your plate. And so we're here to kind of walk you through how to help yourself there as well. So if you don't know me, my name is Victoria. A lot of people call me Vic. Super nice to meet you all. I've spent 15 years helping founders build internal systems, both on the operations side and the marketing side, and have helped clients reach over $6 million in annual revenue. I have a personal brand also called Minding Her Own Business. It's a podcast, newsletter, and education space for mostly female founders or women who are looking to build in business in some capacity. And so I'm very excited to be here and partner with our other host, Will. So, Will, do you want to intro yourself?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Vic. Yeah, my name's Will Leatherman. I run a go-to-market agency focused on building inbound engines, so making buyers come to you versus you going to your buyers, called Catalyst. But my evening job is I'm a AI nerd and spend way too much time building workflows and with Claude Code. And so I've started doing these weekly sessions on Maven where we get to invite really smart guests on to show us how they're using AI. You can check it out every week on Maven. Victoria and I are doing a workshop. So it's like I think it's a 3 hour workshop where we'll be going through end to end how to build up a system that works for you. From little things like helping you clear out your inbox, your email inbox, getting through Slack messages, even just, saving a little bit of time here and there throughout all your different processes. So that will be in a couple of weeks and we will send more information on it. But yeah, Victoria, excited to dive into this.
Amazing. Thank you. And then yes, forgive me for, afternoon coffee. It's quite a Monday today. Thank thank you guys for having me on. Thank you for trusting us. I think when Will and I decided to put this together, I also am a self-proclaimed AI nerd and I like to just dabble in so many different things, but I also understand how intimidating it can be, especially for people who are not technical. And I absolutely define myself as not being technical. So just getting the opportunity to really show you what I've been learning firsthand is an honor, and I don't take that for granted. So I'm very grateful for you all for being here, especially for those of you who likely had the day off and should be enjoying a nice Memorial Day. I don't know about you guys, but in New York, it's pretty muggy and rainy. So this is totally something I'd much rather be doing than being outside. But my first question to you guys today is what's on your plate that shouldn't be? So, not something that someone else should be doing or is already delegated to, but just in the chat box because I love some good old audience participation. Throw it in here. Like, what are things that you shouldn't be doing that you feel like you end up doing either because you don't trust someone else to do it, or you feel like you could do it faster without having to teach them, or maybe you've taught someone once and they just don't quite get it to a point where they need to get it. Like, throw it in there for me. Don't be shy. Be really honest. No one's judging. We all do things. So I can say when I have an executive assistant, she answers all of my professional emails, but then a lot of times we get stuck in her answering my personal ones because she may not have context. And then it's more of like how personal is too personal. So then I end up writing those emails and I waste like at least an hour a day replying to those. Amazing. Entering PO data in spreadsheets, coaching real estate agents on how to sell your property. Yeah. Ooh, how does one determine what should and shouldn't be on one's plate? Okay, these are
I like it.
existential questions. I
I
love
like
it.
that.
We're gonna walk you through a framework for that, actually. So it's gonna be good. Okay, amazing. Thanks to all of you for participating. If you haven't participated, feel free to use the chat box and throw that in there. I'm here to tell you that you're not too busy. You're just doing the wrong work. And so, first thing we're going to do before you do anything else today is if you're working from your desktop, which I highly recommend that you do that for all future sessions because I like to do a little more interactive play here, is we need to connect Claude to your Google Calendar. So, we're going to actually go here and I'll go to new chat just to make it real here. And we're going to go to your settings. And in your settings, you're going to go to your connectors, which now moved to customize, which is fine. And in your connectors, you're going to see there's a bunch of different options. So you want to add a connector. I already have my Google Cal set up, but once you add your connector, you're going to tell Claude what you're comfortable with it having access to. So I personally have these settings on it. Feel free to take a screenshot if you want to kind of cross reference and maybe you don't have the opportunity to be on your desktop today. But my calendar's connected. I highly recommend you just take a second to do that before we move forward because it's going to allow you to participate fully in the rest of this workshop. All right, so we'll give you guys a second. Will, we forgot the elevator music. No.
I know. We'll have to get that for next week's session, but we can fill the air with our lovely voices.
There we go. Yeah, so if you guys notice, like obviously I have this Google Cal connector, and that's what you guys are doing, but you can see all of the other connectors that I have. So it really um, is able to read every single app that I'm working with to help me make my work easier. And when you come to the actual workshop with Will and I, we'll show you how to piece all of it together and make a cohesive image from this puzzle that is AI. But for the sake of today, would love for you guys to just set up your Google Cal.
And I think this is, I think the something I've been thinking about a lot, and again, not an engineer and having to learn about thinking like a technical person a little bit, is having a source of truth for AI. And I think in this example, what we're getting at is like we need the calendar as the source of truth. This is going to dictate how and when things are getting done. And so really making sure that we have something unified there. And the calendar is a great place to start.
Absolutely. Because your AI is also going to be your thought partner again. So now that we did this together, um, we actually took a really obnoxious week of mine. And I don't know if you guys have this, but like I have days where like I get double, triple booked. I run multiple agencies. I have a personal brand. I'm also a speaker. And there's just like all of these competing priorities. And I'm also very adamant in my life about like blocking times for myself to do things where people cannot book me. So this is kind of like one of those really cringy weeks of mine recently where it was very obnoxious. I had like a bunch of work to do because I had just gotten back from a long business trip, but then I also had a bunch of client calls that I needed to take. And so anyone else, does this like traumatizing calendar look familiar? Yeah, James, you get me. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's really, really awful. But at the same time, I think that there's absolutely ways in which if I had used my own framework, it would have made my life easier because I don't think I have to do every single thing on here. And there's likely things that I could have delegated for myself. So I have a prompt for you today that's going to solve some of these issues when it comes to having a really gnarly work week. And the first prompt we're going to use is a calendar audit. So basically, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to Claude and I'm going to open up a new chat. Good afternoon, Victoria. This is already connected to my calendar, and I'm just going to pop this simple prompt in here. And I'm having it audit for myself specifically the week that I showed you guys in the deck. You can have it audit whatever period of time you would like for it to. My recommendation for you moving forward is that you audit your upcoming week. Monday is a great day to get your ducks in a row. This would be a best practice to do either on Sunday before you start the week or Monday morning. I'm using this example so that we have something to play with here. So feel free to do this in your Claude chat box if you have it. I will also drop the chat in the chat box so that you have that as well in the meeting chat. Make it easier for you.
And Vic, can you walk us through? Are you just doing this in a normal chat? Are you using Claude Cowork? How are you approaching this?
Perfect. Great question. So I just opened up a normal Claude chat. It's not co-work. It's nothing of that nature. We just want to keep it simple for everyone who's starting off with Claude. So this is the simplest way to do it.
Awesome. So all these tools can connect just from the basic chat interface. Awesome.
Correct. So, okay, it's telling me I got the full picture. Whoa, it's a loaded week. Also noting you were in Portugal this whole week, which by the way is like a nightmare when you're dealing with time zones. Okay, so it's telling me that my structure was consistent, but here's a quick map of the distinct activity types across my week. So it's walking me through its understanding of what I did, and then it's going to ask me questions. So here, it's really important that you answer the questions for your LLM to have better context. So I had 6 interviews across the week. Were they podcast guest interviews? Were they candidates? Or was it something else? And did all of them happen? Only 3 out of 6 happened. I am hiring for a new role for a client. So notice that I'm manually typing this in. I think Will and I mentioned that last week that we love Whisper. Whisper AI is a great tool where you can verbally dictate things. You can also verbally dictate it through Claude itself. It's not quite as accurate all the time, but I just was old-fashioned and decided to show off some fast typing skills there. All right, so it's understanding here, um, no reschedules. I still need to follow up on this.
As you're typing. Gabriella, it looks like you have a question, but please drop it in the chat. We're not going to do live questions until the end. Thank you.
Oh, Max, this is a great question. What if I have multiple calendars? James, you're not totally cooked. There's a way to synchronize your calendars. And like I think I mentioned this last week, like we have a best practice of like time blocking. So we use a master calendar, which is the one that I shared with you, but that one is also reflective of all my other calendars. So it's still a source of truth that AI is able to pull from, but everything is clearly labeled in there and corresponds to the other Google accounts that I'm a part of. Yeah. Picture of the calendar was provided to Claude. No, Claude actually has access to the calendar. So we went into the connector on settings here, and there's a way to actually connect your calendar to Claude. So it's pulling from your Google Calendar live. That's a great question. Okay. So let me just go back to my previous chat here. Okay. So we got that done. Now we're going to go back here because Claude asked me follow-up questions. Now that it has a clearer picture of what I'm working with, I'm going to give it a second prompt because now I need it to help me get organized and provide some more insight for me. And the way that we do it is that there's three buckets that we think through when we have Claude work on this prompt. There are things that only I can do that are very specific. Obviously, I'm the face of my business. So if there's any sort of board meetings or client facing meetings in which I'm leading strategy or one on one personal relationship calls, obviously, my team cannot come to a networking coffee session. They're not based in New York. They're not going to be on a sales call necessarily unless it's my salesperson. So a lot of these things that require me to personally establish relationships are things only I can do. Then I think about, okay, what are things that my team could be doing and could be briefed on doing that I'm not quite allowing them full them. So Claude is challenging me in the way that I'm operating to think through like, is this something someone else can do? Do I really need to be there? And something that I've learned throughout the time using this tool and also just in leadership overall is there's a lot of things that I feel like I need to do. But once I trust and release that, actually my team is able to flourish under the additional responsibilities. And I get a lot of my personal time back when I'm able to just say, okay, I want you to run that call. Give me a recap on what happened there. And so this is the suggestions that Claude is providing for me. And then things that AI can handle. So this is the most important part. And this is where we're going to start to see suggestions on how might we save me time from manually doing these things. And there's a few pieces that we can check here. So communications, comms are monitoring, flagging, routing things to particular people. This also includes a big chunk of my emails. Secondly, reading news. I love to read the news. I think it's really important for me to be aware of what's happening, not just in the world, but also in my industry and like adjacent industries that we serve clients in. So I always make time to read that. But there is a way that we have worked on now where actually we have an automation send me a digest of everything where I can click into if I want more info, but I have a high level view of what's happening everywhere without having to manually sit there and like upload all of the blogs that I want to be reading. So you can see here a lot of it is checking in with people, doing communications, and reading things that maybe I don't need to be reading. So here's where it's pointing out the pattern in my behavior. And for the rest of this lesson here, I want to work with you guys on how are we focusing on things that AI can do? Because there will always be things that only I'm responsible for. There's things I can delegate, but then there's also this third piece where there's menial, repetitive tasks that AI can now take on for me. So this is where we're going to jump into. Any questions or anything else we want to add? Cool. Yeah, thanks, Will, for answering, Gabriella. Okay, perfect. Oh, I keep changing that. Boop. Okay, I want you guys to have freedom. I want you guys to have your AI help you make your life easier. McKinsey found that the average professional spends about 28% of their work week on email alone. I feel like sometimes it's more for me, depending on how much outreach we're doing. But for founders managing multiple clients, multiple emails, multiple Google accounts, to James' point, email is something that is a low hanging fruit that we can absolutely take off your plate. So, the number one thing we're going to do is focus on how to address emails. Sometimes we're writing reporting recaps, sometimes we're writing status check ins, sometimes we're just answering silly comms that are very repetitive. And a lot of them have to do with, like, for example, scheduling a call with the founder or scheduling a follow up with so and so. And we're going to help you hone in how those need to sound. So before, if you used your LLM, gave it context, and said, write an email, it would be very generic, very boring, and not personal. Google has a really great AI tool that writes emails for you, but it doesn't mean it's coming sincerely from you in your tone of voice with that level of care that you would normally put in if you were handwriting an email. So we're going to jump in and actually use some of our prompts here, and we'll see like the output as well. Okay. And before we do anything, I'm just going to show you guys what it looks like on like a normal chat. Okay. So this is just like a standard prompt. I want Claude to write me a professional email follow-up. Granted, in this particular situation, Claude has no insight into who the client is. It doesn't know who I am. It doesn't know how I prefer to write or my tone of voice, but it's trying its best. Right? So this is a very generic email. My recommendation when you write an email and you have your LLM work is, and this is something that you'll learn in our workshop, is connecting all of your tools matters, because once you connect your AI note taker tool, your LLM will have context into who it's speaking to and who it's speaking as. And then that is going to allow you to truly adjust the tone of voice and provide a more personal output message. And the way that we really do that is through another series of prompts. And that is going to be three simple things in how you guide Claude. You want to guide it in how you write, what you would never say. So don't tell it what you would say, because there's so many things that you would potentially say. You want to tell it what are like your icks, what are like things that you would never write in an email message. So for example, maybe you don't believe in writing LOLs on emails, or maybe, you have a very corporate job and the serious tone is very imperative when you're reaching out to your senior leadership team versus you can LOL with a direct report. So you want to be as clear as possible with your LLM of how you write, depending on the buckets of people you're responding to. And then what your closing line is also matters, so that it can comprehend clearly what is your normal sign off. Do you use your nickname? Do you prefer to just use an automatic email signature? What is it about this email that makes it uniquely you? Okay, I see. How do I handle emails or bookings? So at the beginning, when you notice things, it's going to be really important, Camilla, to Always check your LLM. The more information you give it, the more accurate it's going to be. I don't recommend just letting it fly right away with anything. We have to make sure that we're tailoring it to what our needs are. But once you have that in place, you'll notice here that I have a starter kit that you guys will get in your PDF after this that will help you formulate your tone of voice for your emails. And that is going to help create a more personal touch to how you're writing. And so let's do it now using my personal email touch, which is actually here. We just kept it in here for a second. And granted, guys, this is like a practice session. So we wrote like a very high level generic prompt, but the more detailed you are with your own prompt, the better your output is going to be. So you're
Mhm.
seeing it here. It's checking all of the skills. It's checking my tone of voice. It's checking the email document while it's writing this email.
Yeah, sometimes I like oh, I got too quickly. You can actually click down on that little gray where it has the arrow and you can see all the steps it's doing, which is kind of cool to see kind of what's happening behind the scenes.
It is. And this one kind of gave itself its own hack here because it gave its copy editor skill for voice guidelines. So I think this is better. It's definitely one of those like quick messages that I would write to someone if I'm just circling back and checking in that I want to make sure that we're not falling through the cracks on things. And it helps nudge the person, but it can still be better. So then, so all of the details that I'm writing in here are going to help Claude learn how better to write so that as you build an agent where it automatically begins to write things for you and respond for you, your prompts are a lot more clear and defined because this is just step one, right? Lightning lessons are just a taste. We want to give you a full meal, but we'll teach you how to build those out in the workshop. Perfect. So it's very direct. It's to the point. I want to flag this. I would love a quick response. I want to make sure we deliver it for you, Victoria. Very straight to the point. And I would say, like, honestly, that's kind of how I would write something if I need to get someone's attention. And it's been a couple of follow-ups later. So that makes sense. Did anyone try it for themselves? I'm curious. Let's see. Yes. So, Gabriella, what you do is if you notice here, I have a project file and then I add the basically in your PDF that I'm going to give you after, you'll have a prompt series that you give Claude. Once you output your tone of voice doc for your emails, you would add that to your project file. And then from there, it would start writing emails for you based on what context you needed. That's a great question. All right. Any other questions? That was a great question. Hold on, I lost my place here. Did anyone else try it? I think the biggest thing is the more you teach your LLM how you think and speak, which that prompt very much helps you do, the more clear it's going to be on how to help support you. Once you build the automation for this, it runs very quickly. And it's the intention of the workshop is going to be to help you clean out your emails. It'll draft responses to everyone and send them to them so that you don't have to be the middleman between your emails. It's going to have full context to everything because it's reading your meeting notes from previous weeks and days in which you met with those people. It's pulling all of that context and data point. It's also going to pull up your calendar. So if people are requesting a follow-up call or meeting, it will also have a short list of when it's appropriate to send people calendar links and when it's appropriate to check with you. And then there will be another flag through that also helps it understand I should not, for example, maybe Will is on that short list of people that it needs to flag that need responses, but still needs Victoria to review the response. But maybe it'll suggest a draft first before we send it to Will, because maybe he's like a VIP client that we have. Will, you're so VIP.
Something so VIP. Something I want to add to this is like, and I think this is a maybe a good answer to Daniela, your question that came through. Like, um, think of when you're setting this up as like training or onboarding a new employee. You're going to give them direction. You're going to give them guidance. If you're giving human, if you were training them to check your email, you would give them a set of rules of like, hey, these are the emails I'm fine with you sending right away. This is kind of how I talk. And then you let them do their thing for a little bit. Then you start providing some feedback. And the nice thing is, as you're putting feedback to your AI, that feedback gets stored the same way that a person learns over a few iterations. It's the same exact process. And so once you've let it do its thing, reviewed it, given additional feedback after a few iterations of that, you should be in a pretty good place. The same way with a human to let them work a little bit more autonomously. But then there's always going to be those edge cases where, like Victoria said, maybe there's a VIP client or, your mom, the emails that you want to respond to personally.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I think when I think about this, it's about creating an SOP, right? Your prompt is your SOP. The more detailed your prompt is with do's and don'ts, the more clear your output will always be. And that's very important to remember. A lot of people stop at, um, oh, well, I can do it better and faster. Why would I change the prompt, or why would I spend that 30 minutes to set this up? Well, you're going to invest those 30 minutes in getting your prompt right and your SOP as accurate as possible, because that's where you're going to save your 10 hours a month. That's where you're going to take something truly off your plate. It's the same way as you would delegate to a human, except you're paying way less. You're not paying a salary. You're not paying with perhaps like the call offs or having to retrain someone every 2 years as an EA. Like, you're really building something that is sustainable and is something that you can run with for a long period of time. Despite how quickly the technology is evolving and improving, it's still very important to remember that once you've got this fundamentally built out, like, go build your next thing. Don't come back to this for a minute. No matter how many shiny new objects and like ways to make it better there could be, if it's working, build something else, and then circle back to it maybe in 6 months and see what else you can optimize for. But as your operations advisor here in these workshops, that's my biggest recommendation. Be as detailed as possible. You will always have an edge case where it's a VIP or a personal message that you maybe only you do want to respond to your mom. Or, like, I don't know about you, but I don't want Claude sending my mom a Calendly link, right? It's probably just something I can answer very quickly. And so that's something to think about as you're working through these things. Making it yours is the most important part. And another way in which to do that is also giving it examples of past emails that you've written. Right. Will, anything else to add?
No, I think the only thing is just like patience. Just like again, I think a lot of people get a little confused with or overthink it with because it's an AI. But it's the same exact process that you would with a human training them. And so you need a little bit of patience. It's going to take a few iterations, and that's totally fine. And you can't expect a human to get it right on the first time, and you can't expect AI to get it right on the first time.
Yeah. And I will say, now that there's the voice to text feature with either Whisper or like Claude properly, it's so much faster for me to explain to Claude what I'm looking for it to do or where its pain points are. Because I don't have to type it all out. I think that's another cool feature that's more recent for the LLMs, is now you can like voice to text, and that dictation factor just eliminates a whole other layer of needing to have patience at the end of a long workday. I know, I get it. The hardest thing is like, okay, let me sit down and connect my calendar and then I have multiple calendars and then how do I block these things out? Like, trust me, learn how to do it, invest the time because the ROI for you after you set it up is so much higher than you realize. Awesome. Um, so I think we're close to the end. I wanted to make sure I remind everyone when you come to these, be on your computer. That way you get to doodle on things in real time. We can answer real questions and help you optimize your prompts in the session rather than after. But you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn through DMs. I'm happy to answer anything offline as well and help you refine these things as you're working through because everyone's version of the prompt will end up being slightly different because all of us are slightly different and unique. But the whole point is that this should be able to draft things that sound like you and it should have all the context. And as a manual process, this is a good way to start because you'll be able to monitor your AI and make sure it's not going rogue before you pop into our live session in a couple of weeks where we actually walk you through all these workflows and build all the automation tools, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I want this to run without you needing to intervene all the time. And so the way that we're going to do that is in those live workshops. But for the sake of rounding today out, now you know, and you have a thought partner in how to get your week organized. You also know that email is going to be your fastest win. And now you have a very simple way to teach your LLM how to answer emails as you. All right. So your email EA is ready to work. So put her or him to work. Feel free to scan this QR code, take your time audit prompts, take your email voice kit. Now scan that over. We'll also send this all out to you in an email, so don't stress about that. But it's just like a nice way to do this here. We kept it simple on the profile. Perfect. Yeah, and Victoria also added it in the chat. Thank you for that, Tori. Yeah, any last final questions? Will, any last words of advice for our guests here?
No, I was just gonna say, really excited to be doing these and really hope to see all of you guys in our workshop later this week, or sorry, later this month. Um, Vic, maybe if you want to pull that Maven page up on the screen so people know where they can find it, and Charles, we can drop a link. But the idea, guys, is really just to show you, in these sessions, like what's possible and some quick wins. But I know there's a lot of unanswered questions that come out of this as well. And I love the participation. And so the idea is we'll have, a couple hours together where we really start to finish build an entire system that helps you understand how to set this up for you and make sure you leave the session with everything working. I think that's the biggest thing is we're not going to just be showing you and demonstrating. We will do that, but then we'll also be making sure that everyone joins has a full system that's actually helping them, in their day-to-day workflows based off of your specific needs. So we really hope to see you there. June 17th is when our first cohort is. We will be doing more of these with additional dates. So please let us know if there's no dates available. And then we just dropped in the chat. You can get $100 off the session by using the link and the code that is in there. So yeah, really excited to be working with you guys. And yeah, hope to see you in the next one.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you all. Have
Thanks,
a
everyone.
great rest of your day. Bye.